Guys, it finally happened. We finally got the Soul Leveling anime. First episode just released. I just watched it and I'm kind of fresh out of it and wanted to share my thoughts. First and foremost, it's good. Honestly, it's a good episode of anime. For people that haven't read the manhwa, I think it's a great episode worth jumping into. For people that have read the manhwa, I have some thoughts, but I will still say I'm just excited to see this getting animated. It's weird. I haven't felt this way about an anime in so long, but Soul Leveling is such a crazy manhwa to finally get an adaptation, and seeing it in live action, well, seeing it in animated form is kind of crazy, guys. I can't believe this is happening. Let's break down the episode. I would suggest watching the episode before watching this. I'm not going to spoil stuff necessarily from the series or further into it, but I will be talking about the things that kind of are great about it, the things I think it does better than the actual manhwa, and some areas where I think, honestly, it needs to either improve or are some of the unfortunate realities of this adaptation. Let's jump into it, guys. Starting off with the things that I think were fantastic about the episode, the action is fluid. The anime looks pretty good. I don't think it looks the best. I think it could look better, but looking at some other manhwa adaptation that we've had over the past couple of years, I think this is definitely one of the better looking ones we've had. Definitely better than Returner's Magic Should Be Special, which, oh Jesus, is it ugly? It's crazy. But this looks good, and I think these models work really well for the characters. That being said, I do feel the heavy Japanization of the art style into more of the typical anime style than I feel would be the case from the typical manhwa, particularly when it comes to the main character. That being said, maybe I'll feel a little bit differently as we get into him getting kind of upgraded, if you will, later in the story, as his style becomes very much the typical Korean style handsome boy kind of thing that you see in these stories. That being said, I'm perfectly okay with the way it looks. I think expectations were just extremely unrealistic. I do find the action is fluid, and I will say one of the things that I found was like really encouraging for the way some of the verticality of the action was working was when our little intro to a female character in the story happened this episode, as you see on screen, and the flip that happens over the bike, I think looked phenomenal, and I think is a great sign for some of the amazing action this series has to offer. That being said, what about the episode? What about the story we had so far? Some things I think actually this will do so much better if they keep on it is we're going to spend a bit more time with those side characters and hopefully care about them a little bit more. They have the opportunity with this anime to kind of flesh things out a little more than we saw on the page. Because Solo Leveling is solo leveling, it's very focused on the protagonist, so a chance to spend some time with those side characters, maybe develop those relationships a bit more, as well as kind of learn to care about them, is something I'm looking for in the series. I know most people just want to see the crazy action set pieces that are in this series, and I'm sure they will do an amazing job with them, but I'm actually hyped for what they can actually do better, because I don't think they can do the action better than the manhwa, to be honest. I do think they might be able to do the storytelling better, and I'm already a little encouraged by the way we're introduced to some of the S rankers at the beginning of the episode. I feel like they have personality. I feel like it's good, and while those introductions were good in the manhwa, I'm kind of hoping we get to delve a little bit deeper into it. That being said, I also like how Jinwoo seemed weak in this episode. He really came across as a character that needed a lot of support. We saw his motivation was his mother in the hospital. We saw that he was doing this for family and just really couldn't do anything else, but he also hated the fact that he was kind of useless. But at the same time, the people around him are good people that care about him, and it's just great setup for what's coming. And I love the final frame of the episode of terror on his face, which is ripped right out of the manhwa, which I think is a great moment. We didn't see quite the smile, if you will, that is so famous for this scene. But yeah, overall, I think it was just a great episode, great introduction to multiple characters, some that I felt were introduced a little early than compared to the manhwa form, but I don't think it was problematic in any way. I think they did that to kind of spatter in little character moments that'll be paid off later on in the story, which I think is perfectly okay. None of it took me out of it, but as someone that read the manhwa, I was like, what? Meh. Things that didn't quite work for me. The art, again, is not what I was hoping. I was hoping for something really peak. But I will say the thing that matters the most to me is the fluidity of the action, and it definitely did feel fast paced and action paced. The only thing I will say is there's a lot of jump cuts in the action rather than seeing the full motion of it. I was hoping for something more along the lines of Fate's Stay in regards to the action to kind of live up to the series. But I'm hoping actually as we get those into those further episodes and some things change and the powers change, we get to see fights that are really like zoomed in, visceral, full motion of action, and I think it'll be absolutely fantastic to watch. But giving some hopes, giving some A1's done some amazing stuff, so I'm quite confident they have the capabilities of doing it. Hopefully they're going to blow the budget a little bit later in the series where it is definitely needed for that. Other things that didn't quite work for me in the episode was, again, the art style isn't exactly what I was looking for the series, though it is fairly close to it in a lot of ways. That was kind of my only gripe for the episode, actually. All in all, I think this is a good first episode. It didn't feel overly rushed. It felt like a good introduction episode, particularly for people that haven't read the manhwa. I think it does that chapter 0 arc really well. Without spending too much time on character moments, but still making you care about these individual people within these teams, which look like they're just living their lives. Also, I got this feeling from this episode that I feel I got even more than from the manhwa, is just how easy it is to lose your life in this world is. The way the character gets axed as he's on the wall trying to open the door, and this realization of like, he's a D ranker, I'm an E ranker. I don't even stand a chance in hell if he just got one shot by this statue, and like, I'm done. I'm dead. This is over. And that realization that Jinwoo goes to is really good. It feels like insane, and like even it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because you have these characters that are reacting when their friend gets killed, but they're around death all the time. That's what happens in this world, but it's so brutal, it's so insane, and they realize just how much their life is in danger, because normally they face dungeons that are really easy, that the characters start falling apart. They start talking about how stupid, we shouldn't have gone here, this was a bad idea, I knew we shouldn't have done this, and the women are screaming, and you just feel the dire nature of the situation, and I love that feeling. And I can't say how much I was smiling, which is terrible. I was terrible. How much I was smiling watching this little moment in the anime, because I'm like, I felt that in the manhwa, and I felt it again in the anime, and that for me is something I needed it to capture, to understand just how crazy this whole moment in that room is going to be, and how that room is what sets up what solo leveling is as a series going forward, and how important that is. My hopes for the series. Okay, I do want to talk a few little moments about some things I'm hoping in this anime. One, it's off to a good start. I hope it keeps it up. I hope it continues with character development. I do hope they stay away from filler, but I do hope they actually do add a little bit of it when it comes to character development or little moments that are added in. I also feel that they will, because they've introduced some characters earlier than they should be in the series, which means they might play another role in it, which might actually solve some issues from the original manhwa that I had, which is character relationships don't mean anything, and it's a Jinwoo fest, and that's all it is. I'm hoping that the action of this, particularly the set pieces we're looking forward to, those moments that are the hypest of the hype, are going to live up to expectation. This is the manhwa of manhwas, if you will, for people that are fan of action manhwas for a long time. And it's going to be the introduction to manhwa stuff for so many people. Speaking of which, if you're a fan of manhwa, stay on my channel. There's a ton of manhwa content and other stuff, kind of like solo leveling, of which this is based. I focus on the manhwa versions, not so much the anime, but I will probably be doing videos each week on each episode as they come out, because I can't deny how hyped I am for this, and it kind of brings me back to the moments where I used to live stream the chapters as we went through them week by week, and like the insane moments that we kind of lived together. But yeah, guys, what were your thoughts on the episode? What disappointed you? What do you think is fantastic about it? Can't wait to find out. Talk to you soon.